Hi, I'm Bismack Biombo, and you're watching Real Talk, a series created by Jordan dedicated to have real conversation on real topic. This conversation look at the history of Black people in the UK. I celebrate my heritage by the way I dress, the food I ate, and the stories I share about my culture. Every summer, I go back to the DRC to connect with my community and listen to the stories of the next generation. So over to you, London.
The Jordan brand is celebrating the global impact of Black culture, bringing together guests to talk about history, culture, and heritage right here on this episode of Real Talk, hosted by me, HP Like the Source. We have four amazing guests today. To my right, we have Richie Brave. He is a presenter for One Extra, one of the best if you ask me. To my right, we also have Ife Thompson, who is a UK-based community activist. Don't play on her and don't sleep on her. To my left, we have Jana V, who is a designer and creative producer, whose aims is to dismantle single stories within the Black history, but not just Black history, global Black history. And lastly, we have Etienne Ekech, who is a writer, speaker, and activist. This is an elite lineup. So Etienne, in your own words, what do you love about Black culture?
I think one thing that I love about Black culture is our capacity to, even in the most difficult and bleak of situations, find joy, belonging and fulfillment. And I think that's the kind of thing that exists within our communities in the UK, but also globally. And I think that's something that I really value. Wherever we are, we bring joy, we bring like our own energy. And I think that's something we really have to hold on to and value.
Deeper. I like you, man.
Thank
you know your stuff. Jana, talk to me.
I think the creativity that we bring, and in terms of taking on the hardships and creating something new out of that, and then looking at the ways in which the creativity that we bring influences the world, like worldwide. That is the thing that I love the most.
Wood. Can we all wood, please? Wood. Be fair. Talk to me.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I love the communal element that we have as a people. But it's just the idea that we're all one and we all look out for each other, and same with the Nod. I think that stems back to the idea of us looking at ourselves as a community. And I think because we bring the vibes, I like the fact that, that we throw the best parties, we make the best food, there's nothing we can't do. And I feel like for us, that's what makes us so unique. And my background is quite interesting. So my name is Ife, which is a Yoruba name, and all our names are sentences and it means something. So my name means the love of God is a lot, and Ife literally means love in Yoruba. Like, even little stuff like that, it didn't really hit me until I went to Nigeria one time and I was at the airport and all the people that were at the airport were Yoruba, and the first thing they saw when they saw my name was like, Ife. Lovely name. I love that name. And I felt so seen because what kind of feel like, Ife, what's that? What does that mean? What? And they love it. Oh, Ife, wow, beautiful meaning. And it made me feel so seen. Like even like when you're in like Nigeria, you're in Lagos, you see a road called Toyin Street or, Ife Road. And you're thinking there can be roads called Ife Road. And I feel like that situated me as like I can be the norm.
I feel like growing up, in terms of everyone was always at my grandma's house. It was like a familial home. And so in terms of just being around these strong, amazing women, they kind of just ingrain different attitudes into you. And I feel like that is how you kind of keep afloat and you kind of ingrain these different ways of going about yourself. You can't let anyone rob you of your history. I think that's just something that's been it's just normal for me.
We always find our resilience and we always resist where we need to resist. And for me, there's just great beauty in that. I feel like we're galvanizing now. I went to my first Black Lives Matter march in the UK in 2013, I think it was, or 2014. So I feel like we've been out here and people have been out here, but it was in smaller numbers. I think we're in an age now in 2020, 2021, where we're looking around ourselves and we're like, yo, this person's existed for this long. That person's been doing this. That's been happening in this area. I feel like there's been an awakening. People are suddenly looking around us and saying, yo, this history that you ripped from us in this country, it's always existed, and I'm gonna go out of my way to discover it now.
Why do you think, British Black history isn't propelled?
I think if you look at history is not some passive subject. Like the way you study history is very much indicative of the perspective that people who formulate education curriculums want you to take. Those who formulate our curriculum have managed to make issues of race and class and all these stories of historical injustice an American business. And so whenever something happens, they say, oh, racism is an American problem. And that's why you won't learn about the Black British Panthers. That's why you won't learn about the race riots that happened and the uprisings. That's why you won't learn about the systemic and institutionalized racism. But I think it's generally part of a perspective that a lot of people in this country have, that black people are not British. And that our history starts at the arrival of the Windrush generation. And I think the Windrush generation is a massively important historical moment and movement, but I think we have to reflect the fact that there were black Romans, there were black Tudors, there were black people who influenced the Renaissance in Europe. And I think we have to like expand and deepen our understanding of these historical narratives. But I think to just close off back to your question, it's because there's a level of power and empowerment and like courage that comes with understanding that your people have been here before and that we've risen up and continue to find joy and fulfillment in the space of these injustices.
Well, I feel like black communities have been uprising and resisting. I feel like one of the biggest resistance we've ever seen in this country was the Mark Duggan uprisings, and we don't talk about that enough, and how we as a community saw the killing of a black man via state violence, and we said, you know what, dead, we're going to make sure you guys feel when one of ours is gone, we're going to resist and we're going to rebel. So I go into schools doing a lot of education around teaching black narratives through my organisation BLAM. And a lot of the time when we look at black history narratives, we're looking at Martin Luther King, we're looking at Rosa Parks, I feel like we're starting to recognise our own black British heroes, we're starting to recognise our John LaRoses, we're starting to recognise our Layla Hassan Howes, and we're looking at those that have been resisting in the UK and organising. I think it's particularly important to look at that globalised history, and what I particularly like about that generation is that they were Pan-African. So it was never just about being black British, it was about connecting to Africa and the Caribbean and America, and actually thinking about black internationalism and how we're all one.
Have you guys ever felt that you've been lost in this country that we're living in? And if so, why? I'm going to start with you, Etienne.
I think there's a massive disconnect between the true nature of the communities that we have in this country and a lot of the representations. But I think what's allowed me to not feel lost is the sense of solidarity and connectedness that I feel with the other black people around me. I think there's connections and interdependence in all our stories. And I think it's about recognizing that wherever there's people, there's power. And that we can face on like the immense challenges that we face with an awareness of like who we are and really finding that connection in the midst of the struggle that we face.
We are living in a time right now where we are now the new creatives. We are now going to be looked at as the future. Our kids, and their kids are going to look back at what the things we've done and say, raw, like, wow, these guys were innovators. So Richie, in your own eyes, where do you see the future of black people?
God, that's such a massive question. And I think it comes back to the resistance I was talking about, right? And the importance of community. And I think, we've always had that community that's sat underneath us. But I feel like at times it's felt a bit fragmented, and something feels different at the moment in terms of what we're doing and these intergenerational conversations that we're having. So someone who's an activist now is sitting down with someone like Althea Jones-LeCointe, who was one of the British Black Panthers, right? And they're sitting in a room together and they're learning from each other. So for me, in terms of the future, what I see and what I think is important is that connection and understanding that, yeah, we may be different ethnically or culturally, but there's something that connects us and there's that thread that connects us. So for me, I see great power. I see the future in young people without saying I believe the children are... that, not to make it cheesy, but there's just something about this new generation of young people that's coming up and they're not having it. And they won't take no for an answer. For me, I've always felt like a sense of belonging. I've never felt lost. But in this country, I felt erased. And I think it touches on what was spoken about a bit earlier on.
I love the fact that we have our own language, we have our own ways of doing things, we have our music that's reflected in our language, and I feel like for me that's beautiful. And that keeps me going, and that gives me hope and gives me joy. When I go to a motive, I hear Gigs talking the hardest, I'm in the middle. Do you know what I mean?
That's the national anthem.
That's national anthem.
I'm going to ask you a question, just to see if you've gone to the other side. Plantain or plantain?
No, it's plantain till I die. Okay?
Thank you so much. Continue, my friend.
I'm mountain or mountain?
It's irrelevant because plantain till I die.
It's our own way of saying it. It doesn't have to be two-sided.
Here comes the neutral one. Here comes the neutral one.
Diaspora wars, I'm tired of it.
It's all love, but we have to have a little bit of banter.
I love the hybridity of it all and the merging of it, and that for me keeps me going.
I think a beautiful thing you touched on was the interlinking between West Indian and African culture. I think when I was growing up, there was a big, difference between being black and being, West Indian was seemed as if you're not West Indian, then you're not cool enough. And I think a good part of what's changing is the fact that I feel, for me personally, when I saw, West Indian artists and African artists combining together to make music. One thing that we all love is music. Going to a party, you hear Wizkid and you might hear Popcorn on the song. That's like, what do you want? They haven't got a problem, why should we? And I think that's a big thing for us when we look at these people, these musicians, these artists, we look at them and because there's something about them that, you know, resonates with us. And when we can see them coming together, I think that is a big part of solidarity. And I think that was, for me, was so keen.
I think if we just like look at the kind of the time that people my age grew up, like we kind of grew up in the shadow of the 2008 financial crisis, seeing the marches around racial injustice in the US, seeing the kind of social, economic, environmental, racial inequalities in the UK. I think like I think my generation comes with a type of attitude of if no one else is gonna do it, then we have to, and that like if we want things to progress, then it's not something we can leave for other people. But I think one thing that our generation of people, of black people, in the UK right now have to really remember is that we have to make sure that in the future people see the full like vision of our humanity and that we triumph and document our failures, our successes, our lessons, our nuances. We have to make sure that when we look back in 100 years that people can really see us in our full self, because there's loads of biased depictions of us in the media, in politics, in various different aspects of British society. We have to make sure that we leave archiving and documentation that really cuts through the noise.
With all the sufferation that we've gone through, I feel like it's now been changed to some good vibes and some good energy. I want to thank all of you guys for coming today and taking part in this. I feel very, very inspired to have all of you guys here and being able to hear your stories, hear everything that you guys love about being black, your experiences and everything. And I'm sure that this will be, you know, the beginning of many conversations that we will be having as a community and as people as well. So, I think the only way we can end this by doing the Woody.
Woody.